Brother man, what's going on, Jeff?
What is good? What is good? How are you today?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well, man. Yeah. I just got back from the West Coast yesterday, man. So, I had that. I was in LA, so sunny California weather, mild compared to this, man. I stepped out of the airport last night. I was like, whoa. Like,
Is it still smoky out there?
yeah, yep, yep.
Yep.
So,
Mm.
it's good,
I'll
man.
take the heat.
Yeah, same here, man. Same here, all day, all day. So yeah, I just we'll wait a little bit, let it load up, let people just join, and then we'll get
No
started.
doubt. No
Yep,
doubt.
yep. How you besides work? How you keeping busy these days?
These days I'm working on a few projects that put me in Brooklyn and Jersey. After 10 years of never going to Brooklyn or Jersey, I think I have earned my Brooklyn slash Jersey passports. So
Okay,
that's
all
new
right.
for me.
Okay, so somebody said you got the new glasses on there, man. So you coming a new look. So,
Oh,
uh,
these people, these people.
I
Yep.
know this man trapping. They say. That's good stuff,
uh,
man. That's good. All right, let's get it started, man. So, welcome everybody to no matter what, we gonna build community. I got my man Jeff on today. We're gonna talk about a variety of different things. So, Jeff, man, like I said, man, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate you.
no, I appreciate what you're doing. When Kels hit me up and you explained kind of what this was about, I was very intrigued by the program and everything you guys are doing. So, very
I
cool, very
appreciate
cool.
that, man. So, you got your hands in a lot of different pots, man, and really busy. Just, I know you do some community stuff. You're doing some stuff around shoes. Just, talk a little bit about everything that you're doing and why you do it.
Right. So, just a little bit of background: the fact that I don't know, got an engineering degree, went to Nike, left Nike after a while, did some Yeezy, did a bunch of other projects. As I'm going through all the work that, like, it was my dream to design sneakers. And so that became a big deal. But
Mm,
the whole time I'm doing it, I always had this sort of like tug on me to like just go do things like help the person next door. And I think
mm,
that sort of was always part of what I was almost more interested in than making product.
mm,
And so I've tried to sort of combine the two. And so when we work on, I don't know, product or marketing engagements, what I run is an agency called And Them. And so with And Them, we hire all black and brown talent. We put everybody to work and just get them in the spots that, I don't know, I didn't necessarily have the skill set to get into when I was young, and people sort of brought me along. So the goal is to give them opportunities in spaces that they may not, like day one, have the opportunity to get into. And so when we get into those, we also, those projects being, did Yeezy, doing Under Armour, anybody who has things like in the area that we're sort of capable in design, product, and marketing. And so with that, now that I'm in Harlem, no matter where it was, but now that I'm in Harlem, we're working with projects like Harlem Grown, FC Harlem. We were joking earlier, like anything that's got Harlem in it just happens to
yeah,
be there. But it's not because I love Harlem. I do love Harlem, but it's also right across the street. So
no doubt.
my efficiency gets it done.
No doubt. So you mentioned a couple of different shoe brands, and just a little bit like you say you work for Nike, believe Kanye West brand, and some of the other ones. What was it like to kind of work for those different brands, and how did you have to adjust depending on like the culture of those brands?
No, that's a really good question. For me, like when I got into Nike, I was fresh out of school. I didn't know any better, and a lot of it was I worked at AT&T as an intern, so I kind of
Mm,
knew what a big corporation was like, but had to
mm,
move, as we talked earlier. I had to move to Oregon. It was a whole new world. Girlfriend became my wife, and it was just being in the middle. And by the way, I went from Atlanta to Portland, so that was
yeah.
sort of culture shock on so many levels. But what I will say is that I learned a tremendous respect for making product in the craft,
Mm,
and the focus that pretty much every designer, every marketing person, every engineer like gave me at Nike was sort of key. At the same time, the struggle to sort of be yourself in an environment that wasn't really built for me, and I don't think they really understood what that meant. And finding like, which is why your program is interesting, mentors that sort of saw me like before I could even see myself. Like they were quick to grab me and be like, yeah, we know you don't fit in. You know you don't fit in. Let's have a conversation. Let's make sure you can like proceed and progress. So I think that sort of working in the sneaker world, especially as someone who like this was before there were blogs and the internet. Like I was really
Mm,
into sneakers, and most people were like, "It's a job," and I was
mm,
like, "Yo, I want these sneakers. I want those sneakers." Like I was really into it, and so I had to learn to adapt to not be. We say it now with like a lot of folks we bring in is like you can't be fanboy. Like you come in fanboy
mm,
and like things are going over your head, and like you can't get anything done because you're too busy like over appreciating like what
mm.
is the smoke and mirrors as opposed to getting the job done. And so to me, that became sort of a base for me to learn. And whether it was with Yeezy or whether it was like small brands, we just, my girl Sarah just knocked out a project for Ali Gray maternity. Like we're doing
Mm,
maternity shoots, like whatever it
mm.
is we can touch and reach different people. That's kind of what we're all about.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Where'd you live in Portland? I gotta ask that question. What part of town did you live in? Not
Oh,
Beaverton.
again, this is back to efficiency. We live like right down the street from campus.
Oh
We're
wow!
literally
So you
like a
did.
mile away. What's crazy about it is we were just talking, telling a friend the other day. It's the most diverse spot in, I guess, outside of Northeast Portland because
Mm,
it was a neighborhood of about. It was three neighborhoods surrounding a school, and they were all. It was 65% non-white because they were all Intel or
nice.
technical Nike employees, and so it was a large Asian Indian sort of population.
Okay, all right. So you found your little your little
Food
population.
was
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh wow.
Every
Okay.
neighbor would be like, "You want to come by?" Of course, we want to come by. Here we come. Yes, yes.
All right. No, so you mentioned a little about your brand, and your brand is really connected to community. And so I appreciate the evolution. Just like, how do you go about doing that?
So what's interesting is how it came to be. It's called 99 Products.
Mm,
What really was happening is I was working on a project with a friend out of China, and we were building products for just direct to consumer, large scale factories, just building everything. And I got really nice with some factory owners, and we had a product that I had worked on, really nice running shoe. It was decent. And I jokingly said to this factory owner, like, well, you know, if you make it nice enough, like I'll sell it in the US. And he
mm,
looked at me kind of sideways and I didn't realize how big his factory was. Like I'd been to like,
mm,
when you go to factories, you go to a building and you don't
mm,
really see like how large it is. So the next
mm,
time I show up, he's got the same shoe that we were doing for, it would be the equivalent of like a $40 shoe here. I told him, I was like, you know, if you put carbon fiber in it, if you put these high-end materials, Japanese racing, tech, this, that, and the other, you know, I might take a few pair. The next time I showed up, he had this box. How many pairs do you want, sir? And I was like, yo, that's not what I was expecting. So we bought a few thousand pairs and I didn't know what to do with it. And so I hadn't really planned on starting a brand, but I had access to these large factories. And even today, the factory connections we have because we've worked with the major brands that have access. And so I wanted something that everybody can touch. And that was like, I don't know, my interest. Like when I was at Nike, I was the design director in a part of Nike that was doing Roshi Run, which was like a very inexpensive shoe. And I
mm,
wanted something for the people. Like when we were doing Yeezy, it was one of those, like, I didn't want to necessarily make something that was unattainable. I wanted something everybody could touch. And so
mm,
I decided to name this brand 99 Products based on like 99% of the people. And so there's a couple brothers I worked with at Nike, Jason Maiden and Dwayne Edwards. Jason Maiden is now president of Fear God Sports. Dwayne Edwards runs Pencil, an amazing educational facility that sends footwear designers, marketing, everything to schools. But we're at Nike, we kind of like awkwardly laughed at the fact that we did some very popular product, but 99% of people in this world would never touch it. Like they might see it, but they would
mm,
never actually physically touch it. And one of
mm,
the things that for me that was big was like having access for people to actually get their hands on things that, you know, might be different. So focusing on teachers, focusing on journalists, focusing on healthcare workers, that became like who's creating for them and treating them as though they're, I don't know, the superheroes that they are.
mm, mm. Wow, wow. And you said superheroes. Just tell me more about that. Superheroes. Yeah.
So the reality is, and this is a cheat, is that my mother's a teacher. And
Mm.
so often when anybody talks to me, my mother was not only a teacher, I was the youngest of four. So she'd already, like, the joke in my house is that she had all the practice on the first three. And, I was the one that got all the excellent parenting. For some reason, my siblings think that's wrong, but I think that's 100% correct. But my mother was the kind of teacher that sort of made sure that you could be you, no matter who that was. And so, like, when I showed up in college, when I showed up in industry, I didn't even realize that I was supposed to change who I was when I arrived, because she
Mm.
sort of made sure that, like, I'm from Dayton, Ohio. The west side of Dayton, Ohio is all black. So
Mm.
I had no idea that I was supposed to be other, because she never went out of
Mm.
her way. No one ever went out of their way to sort of go, you should speak like this and you should write like this. And it was more like, you just do you. And I
Mm.
credit, like, her teaching, and, like, my wife will talk about, like, she remembers when she got her first black teacher. I had 3 white teachers all through high school. Like, by the time I got to high
Mm.
school, I had 3 white teachers. Like,
Mm.
I had a sense of, I think, self that I didn't realize I had. And because those teachers sort of nurtured, like, one of the things I used to do, because I really don't meet people, I really don't talk to people, this is all new to me. Like,
Mm.
when I was done doing my work in class, I used to draw on whatever paper was around. And when there was no paper
Mm.
around, I would actually draw on the desk, like, literally
Mm.
on the desk. And I didn't understand until I graduated that none of the teachers ever kicked me out, to the point where even the janitorial staff, they didn't clean the desk. Like, I would have these
Mm.
murals on all the desks, and I would just sit somewhere else and draw on the desk. And it just became a thing. And so that bit of encouragement, that bit of, I think,
Mm.
shelter that the educational system, when it works, I think is very powerful. So to me, those are like the superheroes that give people what they need when they actually use their talent for good.
Wow, that's a beautiful thing. You touched on a couple of things, man, about identity and really to be you. And like you said, you never realized what that really meant. But then you touched on it a little bit when you went to Portland, in a space that kind of challenged that and kind of was telling you kind of, well, you need to adjust you a little bit. Just because we're a kid serving organization, just want to talk to a little bit to the youth a little bit. How did you, I don't know, come to peace with that, or how did you adjust? And some people say cold shift or whatever, or did you decide to move? How does that work with you?
I
Yeah.
mean, the reality is, and I tell people all the time, like, every 2 years I quit Nike because I was like, nah, this ain't it. But
Mm.
they found me a new home. And some of that had to do with, like, they understood me almost better than I knew me through
Mm.
times, because I would think, I don't fit in. This is not really working. And they go, oh, you should go do this job because we need, and I would move up because of that. And it was because I was, I don't know, I didn't fit the cookie cutter, I think, vibe. And
Mm.
not that everybody else did, but I also didn't fit the non-cookie cutter vibe that other people fit. And
Yeah.
so with that, there became this healthy appreciation. And to be honest, I can't even tell you that I didn't try to acclimate. Like, I kind of felt like, oh,
Mm.
I am acclimating. The joke that my wife tells me is like, but you've never seen an Adam Sandler movie. And I go, no, I never saw Adam Sandler. Because I really wasn't acclimating, I guess, that much, though I thought
No
I was.
time. Okay.
It was more of like, I can just show up and be me. And if it wasn't that, I was more interested in learning other cultures that would take me around the world. So we ended up in Japan after like 5 years of being in Oregon. I went in to quit for the like third time, and they were like, you want to go to Japan? And I was like, of course. And it became a whole nother, I think, way to grow and to see the world and do something different. But at the
Mm.
same time, it was sort of like letting people know. And it became more important as my kids started getting older and when I started doing more working with youth, is that they needed to see that what they listen to and how they sound and the way they talk and the way they carry themselves is just as legitimate. It became something where, for me, it became important. You still got to learn whatever your craft is. You still have to learn
Mm.
all the bits and pieces, but show up how you show up. And now it's to the point where the reality is, like, it's no longer about being underrepresented. It's more about, like, you're the people that people go to sell product. You're the people that everyone wants to be like. Like, my joke in my house is like, try finding the white guy with long hair on the Nike Instagram feed. Like, you won't
Mm.
find that. Like, but
Mm.
there'll be a bunch of faces that look like ours. There'll be a
Mm.
bunch of faces that look like the kids that we work with, and we go, there's something about what you have. Bring that, and then ask for more. Don't just ask to be. What is the thing? Don't ask to be on the mood board. Be on the board. And so those are the kind of
Mm.
conversations that I like having. I like seeing.
No doubt, man. I love that. And so you try to create a company around that right there, around that philosophy, because like you said, you want to give people the chance, and you want people give people the space to be themselves. So how do you go about doing that, and how do you go about doing that kind of on a daily practice?
I, what's really, I think we found has been, and I don't know if this was when I was in corporations, it was the same. I know when I got to start working on Yeezy and I showed up, there was this weird sort of, I was in an agency and a corporation at the same time because I was with whatever Yeezy, Donda, whatever we were doing, but we had to float through Adidas because I was the one who spoke corporate to Adidas. And
Mm,
so what I realized sitting on one side, I could be myself more, and the other side was busy trying to get this conformity of like, this is how things work. And I was like, yeah, this is not as interesting to me. And
mm,
fast forward to, we were doing a photo shoot, and one of the models rolled up afterwards. It was basketball, it was uh, sportswear. And he came up, he said, yo, this photo shoot was not work. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, I mean, all in all, like everybody was professional. Like everything was like coordinated, everything was efficient. You all using all the technology. Like, but this was like going to a cookout with your friends that all had cameras and were really good at it. And that sort of nature of
mm,
like allowing young folks to sort of have an opportunity to not look over their shoulder and not worry about like, am I acting the right way? Am I saying the right, is my hair the right way? Like, because you're surrounded by other people who just share your vibe, and to the point where we are only about the work. And our team, like, I get told a lot, like, you can't just bring people into the team like immediately, because I also come from a family of like three older brothers who like basically would beat you down. And so there was no, when we do work, there's no soft skills when it comes to your work is trash or it's good. And no one on our team like holds back. They're like, yeah, that's trash. Try that again. Yeah, that's trash.
uh,
But
it's the
what I
it's the
also take
barbecue.
from that is like when I was in Oregon, that, and you live there. There's a
Mm,
passive aggressive like, oh, that's pretty good. That's without saying like, nah, that's terrible. That's terrible. Like
mm,
the dude
mm,
who I give so much credit to when I got to Nike and I was showing off portfolio to design folks. He basically pulled me aside after like 4 weeks of people telling me, oh, that's really good. It's amazing. You can do some stuff. And he was like, let me show you what portfolios from the best school look like. You ain't even
mm,
close. And I was like,
mm.
thank you. Like, it was the first
Yeah.
time someone actually like just said it like that. They didn't dance around it. And so I kind of took that like, okay, pull no punches and just say it, because we don't have time to like coddle people. Like, we want you to be the best, and we'll make sure you get reps so you can get good, but we need you to get good.
Hmm. Now, and how do you find your talent? Where do you go? Just word of mouth, or how you find it? Yeah.
It's a lot of word of mouth. There's a lot of people we know, friends of friends. At one point, I think the funniest of all stories is, so at the time, I'm not actually sure if she's still there. Dapper Dan's assistant, I ran into her at FedEx, and we had a couple projects coming up, and I saw her, and she was like, "Hey, Jeff, what's up?" And I looked at her, and I was like, "I need a black woman." That's all I said. And she was like, "I got one for you." Like, she knows I'm married. Like, it wasn't even like, we didn't
Yeah.
even have to speak about it. She's like, oh. And she introduced me to someone she had just met who was at FIT. She came on, started working with us. I think she's moved on to a full-time job at another brand where she's getting enough reps there. She still works out and does some stuff with us. But we just pull people in hoping that like they get the skill set and they get to hear what it's really like in these real meetings, what these conversations really feel like as we grow. And as we grow, become like a bigger agency, then we'll have more work where no one's like leaving us. But right
Mm,
now, as long as we're having fun, as long as we're given opportunities, as long as we get to do the community work, it's all good.
no doubt, no doubt. So what's on the horizon? What's kind of the 5 year or the plan? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So the big two chips on our plate, one is that, yes, we're still doing 99. 99 is fun. There's a few other product mixes we're doing with apparel, footwear, and that's a big deal, especially as we try to look towards building in US. Trying to
Mm-hmm.
build factories in different places, because that's a big deal to me. Like, I'm from Midwest. My family grew up in factories, and so that's sort of a meaningful piece to me to see where stuff comes from. Like, I
Mm,
love I would rather not go to a launch of a shoe, and I would rather fly to the other side of the world just to be in a factory.
Wow.
So if I can bring the factory here, I'll be happy. And then the other side is, I kind of always felt this way, but I feel it more now that I'm in Harlem, is like property ownership is like a big deal. And so I'm working with a few people to talk about how does real estate function in a different way, because right now it's not working for a lot of black and brown people, and especially in New York City, it's really difficult. And so like we moved into, because lucky and blessed, we moved into essentially a brownstone, and I've had 5 friends who are over the age of 40 who are from Harlem, and they said this is the first time I've ever stepped in a brownstone. And that just statement right there was sort of like, yo, this is a different thing. How do we address this conversation? So right now, like my biggest thing is like real estate. What does property really feel like, and how do you get more people to step into that conversation? Because I think it really changes how you see things and how you move through life.
No, man, that's big, man. No, thank you for doing that, man, and just for bringing that conversation, just bringing that. 'Cause I think that's stuff that we need to be thinking about. Like you said, real estate, real estate. It's so important, man. It's so important. And so you have all everything that you just said, which is busy work. It's busy. I mean, it keeps you busy. But then you also do board stuff as well, and that's volunteering. And so, why do you make time to be on boards and to do that as well as doing everything that you're doing for this company?
The reality is, like, I was just, I mean, it's one of those humble beginnings. I was just a Midwest guy who wanted to draw sneakers, and I got to be a shoe designer. I mean, that's kind of where, as far as my 15-year-old self was concerned, I was done. Check the box. We can go home. Lights out. But as I started going, I started seeing that there were more and more spots that offered opportunity, but those people were making decisions for who else could be there. And so as I started evolving into whether it was career, people started going, oh, well, you want to be a manager, director, VP, and moving up. You want to own something. But there was this other thing called a board, and I really wasn't sure like what that meant. So first it started out in nonprofit world. I was invited to be on the board of the public school in Hell's Kitchen, boss. And once I got an understanding of how you can be effective to sort of help other people do things without actually having to do it, I started, this goes back to efficiency. It's sort of like you become someone who can block for other people. And once I learned that in Nike, like once I learned that I don't have to draw the thing, I can block for other people to draw the thing, I started processing that into like, how can I use that as a skill set? So joining a board, whether it's a nonprofit, when I joined the board at Knoll, it was sort of like, I want to learn how the business works. I want to learn where I can be effective. I want to see what it is I can help. And quite frankly, those conversations, I mean, what is it, the show us your board? Like, it's mostly white males who sort of make those decisions. And so you watch how those executions happen in a trickle down conversation. And so it's one of the things that I learned. It was like just walking in the building as a board member changes the dynamic, especially for Black and brown people who go, somebody has our back. Like, even if you don't help them, there's somebody who has back. And you'll watch some people sort of stop doing the awkward behavior. Like, they get weird because they know they were doing things they weren't supposed to be doing because they're sort of like, oh, well, I wasn't hiring Black people and now you showed up. So now I kind of have to like, yeah, I'm here. I didn't say anything. It's just, it just sets the tone different. And I've gotten to watch other people like that. Once I started having those conversations, you meet other people who've been having those conversations for years, and they explain, well, this is the new lay of the land. And so that has been very, I think, educational, compelling to me.
No doubt. So, no, man, this has been a great conversation. So I always end with this question. I have a no matter what question, man. So, I guess, if when it comes to like shoe design or shoes, no matter what for a young person that's coming up, no matter what should they do to get into the game? And once they get into the game, no matter what are one or two things that they should really make sure they learn or position they should put themselves in?
No, that's a good question. I think no matter what, and this probably applies to anything, like I have like 2 phrases, or one phrase I use all the time is show your work. Like, let people know what you're interested in so they can help you. If you just keep it to yourself, like me drawing on desk had people push me to some place that I didn't even know I had to ask for. It was me drawing on desk that allowed people to kind of see. And I think the other part that me drawing on desk also went to is like, even if you don't know that that's where you want to be at the end of the day, when you're there, go 100% and show people that you care while you're there, because you're taking up their space, you're taking up their time, they're showing you what's possible, and you'll never be able to run full speed unless you practice at full speed. Like, we give a lot of sports analogies, but you want to, if you don't dribble the ball off your foot 5 times during practice, then you weren't trying something challenging. And so you want to go at full speed. You want other people seeing you do that is important, but also you knowing like how far you can go. And so what that often leads to is failure. But if you can fail sooner, quicker, often, then you'll get to the point where, okay, now I'm doing things. Once you get there, you'll decide, do I actually want to be here? But while you're there, just give your best effort, as opposed to, well, I don't know, maybe this is not it, I'm going to try. Like, nah, just go full speed. And either you fail and you quit, or you succeed and you still don't like it, or you actually do something. But even if you succeed and don't like it or fail, it's an educational moment that you take to the next thing.
No doubt, man. Man, thank you so much. I appreciate you, King. Thank you so much for your time, man.
No, I
look
appreciate
forward
it.
to grabbing some time with you, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah. Have a good evening.
All right, then. Be well.
You too.